If you're a fan of football, you've noticed over the last few years, especially in pro football, that they have protocols in place to take care and evaluate players who they believe have suffered a concussion while playing the game. Now, obviously, pro football is a lot more strict with this than college football because pro football, the NFL, was hit with a massive lawsuit, and part of the settlement was you've got to protect the players. But those are the pro folks. Those are the guys getting paid the big bucks to go out there getting taken care of. What about the NCAA college football athletes who do not get paid, yet still suffer the same kinds of head injuries? Joining me now to talk about that is Scott Hardy from topclassactions.com. Scott, there is a new set of class action lawsuits out there for these NCAA college football players because, again, they're taking the same kind of hits as the pros. They get nothing out of it. They could ruin or have their career destroyed, basically, before they even get a chance to start their career. And the NCAA, according to these lawsuits, has done an absolutely pathetic job of keeping these students safe.
Exactly. And you really hit it on the head there, is that the NCAA has not done a good enough job to protect these student athletes. And as you said, these student athletes, most of them are not going to end up in the pros, but they're taking abuse. They're hitting 10 plus G's of trauma to their skulls, and they're having a lot of long-term problems. And the root of this class action is really, it's trying to make sure that our student athletes can be cared for long past their time in the NCAA, past college, even if they don't go to the pros. If they graduated from college and they're working a 9-to-5 job and they still suffered this trauma to their head, to their brain, who's going to take care of them? How are they going to be able to afford long-term care? The NCAA, they're making tons of money. The colleges are making tons of money off these student athletes. But the student athletes are just kind of left in the background, and that's what this class action is trying to fix.
And it's really interesting. After the big NFL concussion settlement, they put their protocols in place, the concussion protocol. So anytime there's a player on the field, not even if they just take a hit to the head, they pull them to the side. No, sometimes if somebody just gets up after falling and they look, like they might stumble, they will pull them off the field, have the medical professionals take a look at them and evaluate them to make sure that they're okay to go back out on the field. They have the spotters up in the stands to make sure that they don't miss anything. The NCAA doesn't have that. They have a rudimentary concussion protocol. But as somebody who, honestly, college football season comes, that's my entire Saturday. Me and my wife, we watch these games, and I can't tell you how many times every single Saturday we look at a player try to get up and we say, oh my God, that kid has a concussion, and they get right back in the line. They're right back in the line. Nobody is pulling that kid out of the game or even evaluating them. Maybe they do it after the game is over. But I swear to you, I have seen too many kids have to go back out there, get ready for another snap of the football, and they clearly just suffered a massive head injury. And that's part of what this lawsuit is saying. You're not doing your job in protecting us out on this field.
Right, because the NCAA is touting these college players. They're making money off their lightness. They're pushing these guys they're signing, deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars for coverage on different football games because of super fans like yourself. I love watching college football, but they just aren't doing enough to protect these students. And we have to have the same kind of coverage because they can afford it. The individual colleges can afford to make sure that their student athletes are watched, and if they are injured during a play, don't just help them off the field, give them a drink of water, and then send them back on there. Or as you said, maybe just help them stand up and get right back in the lineup. No, you've got to call that guy out of the game. You've got to make sure that they're checked out. You have to follow some sort of concussion protocol and keep these kids safe because all they want to do is play football. But as we know, playing football is very important. We love the game, but you have to take care of these kids or else they could suffer lasting damage and never get better. And this class action goes back to 1952. So this isn't just recent college kids that it impacts. This is going back, it could have a very far-reaching effect to college athletes years and years and years.
I mean, the people who suffer these multiple concussions, we know, they're at a higher risk for dementia, they're at a higher risk for memory loss, other brain abnormalities that can affect their day-to-day lives. And I bring that up to hit back on the point that you had talked about. Most of these college football players do not go pro. Most of them don't even plan to. They're having a good time playing college football, but they know they're not going to make it after that, or they don't want to, which we've seen plenty of times, and they're going out into the regular world. They're working a 9-to-5 job. They're at a bank. They start a business. They work in a restaurant. And that whole time they're doing these other normal jobs that they got their college degree in, they're suffering these effects. I got 8 concussions because I was a offensive lineman. And now I'm having trouble concentrating while I'm working on these transactions, in a bookkeeping department. There's no remedy, basically. These kids have had their lives destroyed, and these effects may not manifest themselves for another 10, 20, or 30 years after they had happened. And that is why lawsuits like this are so important. These kids may not even realize the damage they've suffered. I'm sure, obviously, the ones, from the 1950s, as you mentioned, they probably know. And they've probably gone through it, those who are still surviving. And they understand. But some of the younger ones, maybe they're still in their 20s, they don't know yet how bad it's going to be as they get older.
Right. They don't know how bad it's going to be, and that's why we have to take care of them today. We have to make sure that next season these kids have a much stronger concussion protocol in place, that the people who are no longer playing football but who are concussed on an almost weekly basis, that they've got something in place to possibly care for them if they're suffering long-term damages. And it's our responsibility as fans. We got to take care of these kids who are giving their all for zip. They're getting hopefully a free college education out of it, but they're not getting paid. The colleges are getting a whole lot of money off the backs of these students, but all these kids are getting injured and could have life-threatening problems, Alzheimer's, lots of medical issues. And the NCAA has to pay the piper, has to help these kids, because they're the ones that are in charge of them while they're playing, and they're the ones profiting.
Well, hopefully as this case goes forward, we're going to get some better safety measures in place, and hopefully that settlement from 2014 that is still, waiting to be officially, approved and start dispensing. I think at the end of February is when that one's set. So hopefully that will also happen. But again, sometimes these things take way longer than they should have. So hopefully things can move a lot quicker at this point. If you need more information on this particular case, follow the link in the description of this video. Head on over to topclassactions.com. Get all the information you need. And while you're there, sign up for their newsletter. It is the best way for consumers to keep themselves protected and knowledgeable about what is happening in the world today. Scott Hardy, topclassactions.com. Thank you very much for talking with me today.
Thanks for your time, Farron.